What if I told you that the latest video game featuring the death of Batman might be the watershed moment where everything changes, not just in gaming, not just in entertainment, but beyond? Folks, we're here to tell you this is a major moment when journalism no longer protects the failing franchises. It's already on sale, and it just released. And the developers, they're mad at journalists for not protecting them more. We'll tell you all about it right now. Hello folks, welcome back to the Pro Channel. Happy to have everybody out there joining us. And it has been too long since we've had Endymion TV back on the channel. And since you have been on, sir, something like 6 weeks ago, your channel has exploded, and we are so pleased and happy for you. Part of that explosion has been due to your coverage of this game. Can you talk to us a little bit about what it's been like to be featured in the headlines a little bit recently regarding your coverage?
It's been kind of, it wasn't the first time. The first time I ever got featured in anything like that, it was Baldur's Gate 3. Although I got discredited by IGN like shortly after because someone at IGN obviously doesn't like me, so they were like, get him out of there. That's okay. In terms of like the gamer.com doing it for me, I honestly didn't even know until Yellow Flash covered it, and then I watched the video, and then I was just watching his video in the background while like researching stuff, and then I heard my own name in his video, and I went, wait, what? And then I clicked on the article, and it was like, oh, they're just calling me out. They hate me. So it's good to know that like our coverage, not just mine, but a lot of people's coverage is just, they're very aware of it, to say the least.
Yes, it's disrespectful. It is an immature job writing the end of Batman, I would say, and there's so much wrong with this game. Could you give us just a brief rundown of why you think this is such an egregious example of wokeism having gone so far that the backlash, I mean, even IGN is turning against this thing. Even IGN. Yeah. Walk us through. What makes this egregious?
Essentially, I played all the Batman Arkham games multiple times. I love them to death. I 100%ed the first one, for example.
Yep.
Those games were made by...
The first two are in my top, well, at least one of them's in my top 20 video games of all time. I don't know which one. That's how good
they're
they
incredible. Rocksteady was a industry leading developer. They were, I mean, so many people copied them once they made that Batman Arkham game because that combat system, for example, it was so perfect in terms of what it wanted to do that if you actually look at other Warner Bros. Games, for example, the Shadow of War games, Shadow of Mordor and War, which were the Lord of the Rings spin-off games, they both use the exact same combat system as Batman Arkham, which they're all Warner Bros., so it makes sense. And they even used it in the Mad Max video game that I think their name was Avalanche Studios made. They're the people that also made Hogwarts Legacy. So right. Batman's like, and then if you think about it even beyond that, like Rocksteady was so industry leading that you could even say that the new Spider-Man games from Insomniac, I mean, their combat in a sense is also heavily influenced by Batman and so many more. Like they were one of the best developers of the last maybe 15 years, I would say. And their games, like even the review scores like show it. Arkham Asylum had a 92, 94 for Arkham City, 87, I believe, for Arkham Knight, which is still great, even by today's standards. And now Suicide Squad's at a 63, I think, right now. And it's at like a 0.8 on the user scores as well. Like it's really bad. So I think the reason why is because the people that actually founded Rocksteady, which is Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker, they both left Rocksteady back in 2022, and apparently they took a bunch of the old guard with them. So
that'll do it. You know, and when geniuses leave, folks need to understand this.
Yeah.
The people who can create stuff that sits at the very highest level of the Pareto principle, we're talking about the best of the best of the best. It's just like a sports team. When they're gone, you don't replace a Tom Brady. You don't replace a Michael Jordan. When they're gone, it's not like you can flip the switch and say, oh, well, we want to make those games again. No, I'm sorry, you can't, because the geniuses are no longer here. And so that's, you know, it's really something. And I have to say, too, just as a aside here, an anecdote. Back when Arkham City released, I had one of my best friends from my childhood who had come over to spend some time for holiday. And I remember that when we beat that game together, that It was actually a sad moment because we wanted to keep playing the game because it was so good. And this almost never happens. The game was so good, we didn't want it to end. We wanted it to keep going. Folks are not feeling that way right now when it comes to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which does some things that we think are abhorrent and inappropriate. And it would be one thing if they were killing these characters, these heroes, as a way to make you, feel something, and to make a major point. Instead, what this feels like is that a bunch of propagandists got together to throw a tantrum together and take down the patriarchy. That's what it feels like. And then they do so with banal kind of dialogue and just awful acts of depravity that make you walk away saying, you know what, screw Harley Quinn too. That's a garbage character now. But this is out of Dexerto in Endymion, and this is, the proof is in the pudding. You've been out there saying, that this is not going over well. You've been attacked. You've been maligned. People have been coming at you. The woke mob out there angry at poor Endymion, although your views are great, and that must be like burning coals upon their head. But it turns out that you're on the side of the market, sir. You're on the side of the majority because Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is already on sale. It just came out. It's already on sale, 20% off, and that tells you all you need to know. You know how bad it is? Take a look at this. Do you know this person, Amy Leigh-Shaw? Do you know who this is?
Yes. So my next video, I'm covering this lady in it, and so apparently she used to work at Rocksteady, and then now she works at Sweet Baby, and she said this whole thing about basically IGN saying that they wasted Kevin Conroy, which I agree they did, and then she kind of went around and said, "Oh, Kevin Conroy wouldn't want you to say this. This is just them kind of stoking the culture war flames." But honestly, the fans are right, man. They completely ruined the Batman Arkham games. Like the fact that he overcomes Joker, Ra's al Ghul, Bane, Clayface, Scarecrow, Poison Ivy, all these characters, and then he's reduced to in an alleyway like his parents getting shot in the head by Harley Quinn of all people. And it's so disrespectful, and it just shows you that a lot of the people that are working at Rocksteady now are clearly not the old guard. In my previous video, I remember I was there's this other Twitter account named Manga Lawyer, and he had this post where he had a bunch of the people that during the hype videos for Suicide Squad, they were showing off these developers, like this person's a sound designer, this person's the UI artist or whatever. And everyone they're showing, I'm looking at them and I'm going, these people look pretty young. So what I did was I actually took their names. And
they got mad about this one in Endymion. They don't like this one.
Yeah.
I love that you did this. Tell the audience.
Yeah. So I ran their names through the credits of Batman Arkham Knight, which would have been the last Batman, Rocksteady game technically. It would have been technically Batman VR, but Arkham Knight's like the last big game they made. And none of their names were on Arkham Knight. So clearly these people were hired during the Suicide Squad development process. And it shows, like I said, you look at the Metacritic scores, you look at the reviews, like Rocksteady, the old Rocksteady would not be capable of a 63 Metacritic Batman Arkham universe game. They just wouldn't.
This is in name only. This is in name only. This is not Rocksteady. This is Rocksteady Light. And that's generous. But here's what she had to say. And now that you've given us the background on her, and folks, Endymion's going to have one heck of a video. He's been on a tear, and he has stirred up the Hornets. They are mad, but the market is on his side. Here's what she says. Kevin was our teammate, and many of us worked with him directly for years. I would expect games journalists to know that. In other words, why are you fighting against our tribe? We're supposed to be on the same team. And understand how callous it is to use his memory to stoke hatred, as opposed to having him be part of a scene that is absolutely just terrible. We'll just say terrible in the way it depicts Batman and the way it attacks the iconography of the character that he loved. We do not need strangers to tell us what he would have thought. He told us himself. I'm sure that Kevin Conroy spoke directly to Amy Leigh-Shaw. I'm sure that happened. And this is because she's mad at IGN because, well, not even IGN can defend this. She would not, Endymion, be coming out and making a statement, though, unless this is really bad. And I would suggest it's bad enough that it may damage the studio. It may damage careers. And I have, listen, I try to be operating from sort of an aerial view. So even though I talk about Disney and some of the negative things going on there, you never hear me say, do not go see a Disney movie. I'm telling you, Rocksteady, this studio is done. It's over. close the doors, shutter the place, and fire these people because they're cowards for having done this. But this is how we really know that they're scrambling. And when we talked about the 800% increase in searches for refunds, it's definitely true because this out of GameSpot by Mark Delaney. Suicide Squad includes a heartfelt tribute to Batman's legendary voice actor, Kevin Conroy. And Demian, it's not my understanding that many outlets out there go ahead and spoil the end credits. Yet that's what's happening. And I'm betting that Rocksteady or some others have said, hey, Damage Control, tell them what happens at the end. We threw in a tribute. For the love of God, tell them about the tribute. Get the articles going about the tribute, the tribute
there's
is
a
nothing.
lot of leaks. There's a lot of leaks about Suicide Squad right now. Allegedly, according to they're going to have seasons of the games, it's live service. So allegedly what's going to happen is...
Sure they are.
Yeah, I know. They're really trying to run Damage Control. The idea is that they're saying that every single season of Suicide Squad, I guess, going forward, apparently they're saying that you're going to rescue one of the Justice League members every single time. I don't know if it's like an alternate universe or something, whatever. It's nonsense. Like
they better pack all that in one season because that's how many they're getting.
I know. Yeah, exactly. It's really annoying because I remember seeing how the next character coming to Suicide Squad is Joker, which again, if you're a Batman Arkham fan, you know Joker died in Arkham City and it was a big deal. And it's such a big deal that in Arkham Knight, Batman's so, I would say, traumatized and longing for his nemesis that he literally imagines that he's there the entire game. He's in the background, he's following him everywhere. And now they're bringing this other Joker. And then I remember watching the Rocksteady developer diary about Joker, and they're saying, oh, he's a Joker that's trying to deal with his insecurities. And I'm like, Joker? Insecurities? He's like, when was Joker ever insecure about anything?
Right, that's the opposite of anarchistic ideals.
You can just tell these people don't know what they're talking about.
They're inserting themselves in Demian. All they do is insert themselves. They don't know how to do anything but insert themselves in their woes and their first world problems. Next thing up, Joker's going to have a problem because the Wi-Fi doesn't reach all the way across his lair underground. He's got to get better Wi-Fi. That'll be the next plot of the game. And Demian, what does this mean, though, more broadly for the culture war? Because in the past, they had the journos on their side. Now, journalism, I don't know if you've been following this. The journalism industry is in a very strange place because they're in an election year. And even if you don't cover politics, an election year means that you get all of this culture war sort of content to cover. And at the same time, the major news outlets are firing journalists one after the other. It feels very much like journalists have reached that point where they are no longer believable such that the audience is utterly leaving. Now, so at the same time that is happening, we've got this Batman game that comes out. The journalists can no longer protect it the way that they once could. They'll come out and attack you, but they can't go against the market like they have in the past. And so that's meaning that the game creators now, right, the propagandists, they're kind of in this weird place. They don't know how to handle having the journalists not run cover for them. And so what do you think more broadly about the culture war? Is this a turning point, do you think, in any way? This realization by corporations that, hey, if we have characters literally urinating on the corpses of heroes, if we have characters being intimately assaulted by the player that, the character, we might lose millions and millions and millions of dollars. Is this a watershed moment?
I think more than ever before that consumers and fans of these kinds of things are becoming much more apparent and aware of how these companies are ruining their characters and their legacies and their franchises. I mean, this isn't the first time. Spider-Man 2, for example, if you compare Spider-Man 2's story and characters to the original game, so it's very simple. Look at Spider-Man 1 by Insomniac Games. It didn't have Sweet Baby Inc. in it. That game, in my opinion, was like the definitive version of Spider-Man of the last maybe 10 years. I thought it was an incredible depiction of Peter Parker in every single way. Then you play Spider-Man 2, and it's as if that's when Sweet Baby came involved. And suddenly Peter went from this very capable, strong, confident male hero to being this very weak guy. Like there's one scene in the game where Venom throws Spider-Man into a fridge, and the fridge is enough to hold Spider-Man down. I'm like, this is Spider-Man. This guy can hold buildings.
You can pick up a fridge in Demian.
Yeah.
If a fridge is on top of you, you can free yourself. Peter Parker should be able to withstand Maybe
fridge
next
to
they'll throw a
Spider-Man
microwave
is
at him.
like
It'll be too
it's,
much.
it's like me picking up a sock is like what Spider-Man is picking up a fridge. You tell like, and then the fact that they make Miles Morales the main Spider-Man, and it's like, why would you do that? Because in Spider-Man 3, the main villains are going to be Dr. Octopus and Green Goblin, who have no connection to Miles Morales. The only reason why you're doing this is because Sweet Baby looked at the two characters and went, oh, Miles is a person of color and Peter isn't. So naturally, we got to make Miles the main character and Peter has to take a back seat. And it's happening across the board. And with Suicide Squad, it's the same thing. Like, they killed all of these legacy characters. And for a long time, people have been asking for Rocksteady, like, make a Superman game, make a Justice League game. And they're like, no. Instead, we're going to kill everyone and ruin it. And not only beyond that, but if you look at the ending of Arkham Knight ends with Batman's identity being exposed, and he kind of fakes his own death in order to save the Bat family and everything. He blows up his mansion and everything. And then in Suicide Squad, it's just like, oh, he meets the Justice League and he's Batman again, and all the events of Arkham Knight don't matter now because obviously we don't care, and now he's dead. And it's like, what are you people doing? And I think it is a watershed moment because I think I said a lot of people are becoming much more aware of these things, and it's very showing in sales and review scores that people are waking up and people are sick of it. And I think a big part of that is because it's very clear that they're not willing to give you what you want. It's almost as if like the way these writers and creators view the paying customers, the me, the you, the people watching, is that we are just people with wallets. We're not human beings to them. We just kind of exist to fund their next business venture.
Right.
And
if they burn down a brand in the process, who cares? That's
what Sweet Baby's been doing. Yeah, because like you look at like any game that they have touched, where you compare the last game and then the next game that has Sweet Baby Inc.'s like stench on it, it's so prevalent. Like,
right.
For example, Sweet Baby did God of War Ragnarok. If you play God of War 2018, that game is, I would consider to be probably the best God of War game. It was amazing. Then you play Ragnarok, and it's still a good game, but like there's really weird things. Like, for example, Anger Boda in that game, she's one of the giants. She's just a small black girl, and you're like, this takes place in Norse mythology. Why would there would never be someone who looks like this in this part of the world, right? But that's because
in the same way that if there was a Wakanda game, and suddenly a Chinese man shows up, you're gonna be like, why is the Chinese man here? It's not that you dislike the Chinese man. It just makes no sense.
Because we all know if God of War existed in, like, let's say African mythology, which they could definitely do at some point, if they did that, you know that they would never take a character that was like, they wouldn't take an African mythology character and then turn them white. That just wouldn't happen. But for some reason, it's okay the other way around. And they also did it to Alan Wake. I mean, Alan Wake 1 was a good game. Alan Wake 2 comes out, Sweet Baby puts their hands on it, and suddenly the main character, Saga Anderson, goes from a extremely white, blonde Norwegian woman, and suddenly she's this like black woman with curly hair, and you're like, what the hell happened? That doesn't make sense like at all, because that goes against Alan Wake and Control, which are two of Remedy's previous games. But it's like, oh, Sweet Baby came in and probably looked at the game and went, this game's not diverse enough, so they just changed Saga Anderson. And they did the same thing to Spider-Man. They did the same thing to Suicide Squad. God knows what they're going to do next. And I feel as if now, whatever the Sweet Baby Inc. people do, whatever their next big video game is, people are, as soon as, it's almost as if like now if you see that logo anywhere included on a game or anything, people are just going to go, oh, I don't want to play that. Like, I'm just going to like stay away from that. And I think that's a big reason why on the flip side of Western culture, that Japanese stuff is exploding at the seams. Like, it's doing so well in every way. Manga, video games, doesn't matter. Anime, whatever.
Japan is protecting our values. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like lately, this year alone, every game I've bought has just been Japanese. I mean, I'm playing Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. I mean, there's some like translation errors here and there, but in terms of the actual story, men and women are treated equally. And it's not like, oh, all the women are amazing and all the men sit on the sidelines. It's like, no, the strongest character in Grand Blue Fantasy is literally this like white-haired badass dude with a huge like cloud buster sword on his back. And it's like, they understand their audience. You know what I mean? Like, look at all the games that have been doing well this year alone. You have Infinite Dragon, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, which is based on the Yakuza series. Also has apparently some bad translations, but again, because these activists are still in these
I'm aware
companies
of the
somehow.
activists inside the localization industry
Yeah,
right now, which that may
yeah,
go to straight to AI. But Endymion, let me see if
yeah.
you tell me if I've got this right. This is the way it looks to me based on our conversation. Looks to me like there's this company that comes in and they help you diversify and fit all of those DEI and ESG criteria, the Dippin' Dots that'll make the investors happy. They help you do that. And they're named Sweet Baby, and they go from game to game. And at first, it's sort of minor, but they're emboldened over and over. And now this has hit sort of the crescendo. And this is the last Jedi moment, I think, for video games. But the difference here is that once upon a time, journalists protected The Last Jedi fervently, and Lucasfilm and Disney protected it fervently. In this situation, because of where the journalism industry is, and largely because of YouTubers such as yourself, and hopefully and humbly, perhaps this channel as well, and because of Twitter/X being a place for free discourse again, the journalists are being fired, and they really can't cover for these kinds of things any longer. And so now the tide has turned utterly, and the sweet babies of the world should probably look out, or at least the corporations who allow them in should realize that they are, what would you say, anti-success SJW vagabonds who go from one thing to another, corrupting it. Is that fair?
The way I look at it is they will use anything they can as a vehicle to ruin it, and they don't care if the thing they use ends up, not selling, destroys people's jobs and livelihoods at the studio entirely, like Rocksteady, for example, as long as the message gets sent. So for a lot of these people, it doesn't matter what it is that they get their hands on. I mean, it's Netflix The Witcher all over again, right? Like, it's just
Yep.
When the writers for The Witcher on Netflix came in, they were ousted for being like, they don't care about The Witcher lore. They hate it. They don't care. Even looking at the MCU, for example, with Echo, the writers, I think it was a writer or the showrunner, one of them, they openly admitted that when they wrote the script and the story for Echo, they didn't even watch Daredevil. They just watched a supercut version of the Kingpin scenes and were like, okay, yeah, we understand Kingpin now. We get it. Old rich white guy, really angry and toxic. Yeah, we get it.
Right. And that's sort of like, that would be like if you went to a dentist and the dentist said, well, I never went to dental school. I never went to medical school, but I have seen pictures of teeth once upon a time. I mean, that's, you would never let somebody clean your teeth like that. And that's that's lunacy in every other industry. That's why these people aren't unsuccessful. They're anti-successful.
Yeah. And it also goes in towards the woke localizer thing too, because a lot of these people that are localizing content and ruining the translations, for example, in Like a Dragon, to some extent Grand Blue Fantasy, although I don't think it's that bad personally, is because people like this that have these SJW, woke tendencies, I guess you could say. They don't view themselves, when they look at something, they don't see the property as this amazing thing that they can add to. They look at it and go, how can I put my politics into it? How can I ruin it? And how can I change it to fit my own ideals? And it feels like, especially with the woke localizer thing, they almost see themselves to be as much of the creator of the IP that they're on as the person that's from Japan, probably, that wrote and actually drew the actual manga or whatever.
You're describing religious ideologues, by the way. I mean, that's what this comes across. These are people who are fervently of the belief that they have utter superiority, such that they can alter things. They remind me, the way you're describing these people, and I agree totally with you. They remind me of the idiots, the sheer narcissistic idiots who throw soup on works of art that are part of all of humanity's history that should be preserved, and they throw soup upon it. Except these people throw soup on and alphabet soup, by the way, alphabet soup, of course, onto our franchises that are loved, and they waste tens and hundreds of millions of dollars of corporate money. And that, by the way, what does that mean? Well, that means that they waste shareholder money, stockholder money, pensions, 401ks. That's what they waste. And they don't care, it seems to me, that they destroy the money of success of the others.
And what's funny about that analogy you said about the soup on the paintings? You notice how whenever they throw soup on paintings, it's only ever classics. It's never modern art because they know nobody would care. And that's a very,
right.
very telling. It's exactly how it is.
And
because it's the same thing with the way these people work, right? It's the same thing. Like they don't make anything new. They just take things that have established franchises and go, oh, if we take The Witcher, if we take Suicide Squad, because it has the Batman Arkham series attached to it, then we have this massive audience that we can throw our agenda at. Because they know if they made their own video game with their own world and everything, and they threw all their nonsense into it, everyone would be like, we don't care what that is because it doesn't have an established franchise. It's
like the medieval leeches in Endymion. These executive level corporatists have brought in the leeches thinking that they'll suck the blood and get the poison out and get them their DEI score. And what they didn't realize was the leeches, all they do is suck the blood out of the company. They can't make their own stuff. All they can do is take. And unfortunately, folks, that's where we must break. But Endymion, thank you so much for being here. And again, it brings me great pleasure to watch the huge success that your channel is enjoying right now. I hope it continues. I hope you gain tenfold, and I hope you continue to stir up the hornet's nest of these bizarros who want to take you down. But you are on the side of the majority of the market, and most importantly, of common sense. Tell the folks out there what's coming up on your channel other than just the video that you're doing about Sweet Baby. What else is on the horizon?
Oh, man. I think I'm basically just doing what I usually do, one video every 2 days, hopefully at least, so I don't, overextend myself. I've been thinking about doing live streaming. I don't know. I need to buy a desk first and a chair. I work on my couch. You can't see because I have the digital background in the background.
I'll donate you some duct tape. I don't know what you'll use it for, but it'll come in handy, I'm sure.
I'm not kidding you. Right now, I'm talking to you. I'm sitting on my couch. I have my laptop and my microphone, and it's sitting on my Death Stranding Collector's Edition suitcase.
Endymion,
That's how I'm talking.
Do you know how angry the journalists listening in on this video must be that they spent all that money for the Ivy Leagues? They're getting fired, and here you are getting 100,000 views of video, sitting on your couch. They can't stand it. I love it because you know what it is that you have? Truthfulness, and you deliver it, and it's talent. It is talent that you can't find in the classroom. You have a degree in communication, and you did not need a professor to teach it to you. You just do what you do. So happy for you, and keep at it, sir. Folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and yes, when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below and let us know your thoughts. Do not let this be one guy on his couch talking to another guy behind an avatar. No, turn this into a community dialogue. They will hate it all the more. Folks, we have earnings call stuff coming for Disney over the next couple of days. You do not want to miss it. Make sure you subscribe to Endymion. And as we always wrap up here, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun. Hey folks, don't forget that this Wednesday, February 7th, coverage of the Disney earnings call begins at noon Eastern with Midnight's Edge, followed by a special edition of the Pro Show, a pre-show of what we can expect to see, as well as coverage from Valiant Renegade beginning at 4 p.m., where the earnings report will happen live during the show with post-show analysis. Don't miss a moment.